let's have a quick chat about the Fuji XT2 and the autofocus problems I've been having. Now, I've been using the X-T2 for quite a while now, and with Fuji lenses, 16mm, 18mm, a couple of others, 7300. So I've had a few lenses, Viltrox 56 as well, and then I decided that I would try the Viltrox 33mm lens, kind of as a replacement for the Mikey 35mm manual focus lens I had. So this is the 33mm Viltrox, and I hadn't really noticed AF problems with the X-T2 until I used this lens. So there were two occasions when I took it out recently for some kind of reasonably serious photography, I suppose. Once was at Goodwood at a car meeting, breakfast club there, and once was at Wisley. And after the car meet, I kind of thought there were a few, it's not many, it was probably 5 or 6 out of maybe 150 pictures that were not in focus. And this is despite the fact that I used a camera with focus priority set on, and when I was using the camera it had locked and acquired focus. Green indicator was on before I took the images, and yet there were some that were clearly out of focus. Same at Wisley, at the gardens there, and we'll go through a couple of examples in a minute. But clearly that indicates to me there's something slightly amiss. So some further investigation was required. So if we look at a couple of examples, and to be honest, at the car meeting, yeah, after that I kind of thought, well, maybe, you know, it's shiny paintwork and, you know, difficult situation possibly with regard to focus. I was trying to be kind of fairly positive about the experience, but if we look at a couple of examples, and these are not, you know, it's not movement, and it's not you know, it's not too small an aperture, you know, too wide an aperture, too large an aperture. It's, you know, it is genuinely not in focus. So if we look at this white Maserati, I did think maybe there was a paintwork issue here because it's kind of a pearlescent paint. It could be difficult to get focus, but, you know, the camera said it had achieved focus. And if we look at it at 100% crop on the focal point, it's not in focus. So another example here of a man, this was a bit more of a grab shot. It's a man sitting on the bonnet of his car, and again, I thought, well, I know that it had had time to focus, it had focused, and if we look again at 100% on the focal point, and I was using a single point, not the very smallest point, but, you know, not large either, small focal point in the center of the frame, and clearly that's not in focus. And third example from the car meeting, this Ford Thunderbird with 2 people stood next to it, and again, if we look at it at 100%, it's not in focus. And in fact, in all of those shots, there's nothing in focus. Nothing at all. It's all missed focus. So that was all a bit kind of, well, just slightly disappointing. I had shots from, I'll cover this car meet in another video perhaps, and there were some shots there, because I approached this one in a different way to those I've used before, but it's disappointing to miss any shots like this when you don't think you've missed them. You don't think it's your own problem, it's your own fault. You think it's it's the camera that's let you down, or the camera and lens combination that's let you down. So that was disappointing. So let's have a look at some examples from Wisley as well, from Visit to the Gardens there. And these are just, interestingly, when I was focusing, for want of a better word, on something very, very specific, like a flower head up close, things like that, it never missed. When I was doing and I don't do very many general scenes at Wisley, but when I did general scenes, this is where it came unstuck. So if we have a look at this first one, it's just a general, these shots are rubbish, and it's just a general kind of view. And all of these, the three examples I've got from Wisley, they're all at either f8 or f5.6, and all reasonably high shutter speeds. So again, it's not aperture related blur, and it's not movement blur due to slow shutter speeds. So this is just a green kind of general vista. Nothing's in focus, and if we look at the focal point in the center at 100%, clearly not in focus. Now this second example is a tree, and again, there's nothing there that's in focus at all, and looking at the focal point at 100% out of focus. Last example, the bridge. This is quite an interesting one, because the bridge I'd have thought was something that is pretty, it's a good subject to focus on. Although it's a rubbish photograph, but it's a good subject for the camera to focus on. And again, there's nothing here that's in focus. So that's all a little disappointing. Not that I really have missed those shots, to be honest, but again, out of 100, I know less than 100 shots, but out of 50 or 60 photographs, to get 3 that the camera's missed completely seems a bit, not pleased with that. So I thought I'd investigate a little bit to figure out, a little bit more closely to figure out what my problem is and what I can do about it. So obviously I checked the firmware for the X-T2 and for that lens, and everything's on the latest versions of firmware. I then decided to take a look at, as a book, at the Fujifilm X-T2 120 Expert Tips. So I took a look at the focusing section, and something it talks about in here is one touch AF, or instant AF. And it says that, and I quote here, one touch AF is the most precise autofocus method available, which also makes it a bit slower than the camera's normal autofocus. However, it uses it works with both phase detect and contrast detect. So I thought this is worth a try. So I decided that I would go down, I would try this route. I thought, actually, if I'm using autofocus, right, because this one touch AF or instant AF you use with the camera set on manual focus. So as you can see here, manual focus, and the way you use it is you set up the AFL button as back button focus. Really, that's the way I've done it, and I've disabled the focusing from the shutter, so I've set that to off, but I've got the back button focus on and manual focus, and you just when you're ready to, you point the camera at whatever it is you want and you use the back button. So this is very similar to the situation I use when I'm doing sports photography. When I'm doing motorcycle racing, I always use back button focus for that, because I find it better for me to track the focus with the back button and use the shutter just to activate the shutter. Kind of just disabling the two just works better for me when I'm doing panning for motorcycles. So it's not that difficult for me to adapt to this situation just for normal photography. So I'm quite happy with that. The only problem, so I did go out and I've given this a try on at least two occasions when we've been out recently. Once was in Guildford, I think, and once was at Hatchlands Park, where we went for a day out. And the only problem I found initially was because this back button is very close to the rear command dial, and I pressed that a couple of occasions. And the annoying thing about that is that it changes how the magnifier works. So it cycles through the split image, the peaking, and the standard magnification for manual focus. And I hadn't realised initially, I pressed it and hadn't realised how to get it back to, because I use it, when I'm doing manual focusing, I use the rear command dial punching in standard, so it just magnifies. And I couldn't figure out how to get it back to that after I'd changed it. But you don't just press it, you have to press and hold, and it cycles through the options. It took me a little while to figure that back out, which is annoying, but there you go. Once it's sorted, it's sorted. So that's what I'm doing at the moment. I think the other option, which I had thought about trying, was just using autofocus instead of manual focus, and using a different size of focal point rather than just a single point. Use it kind of, you've got single, and then you've got the bigger squares, and then you've got the zones and all sorts of stuff like that. And I thought I'd try that as well in autofocus mode, see how that goes. So far, using the instant AF, camera set to manual focus, instant AF, I've had not a single missed focus point so far. So that's kind of restored my confidence. I still don't really understand why the problem never arose at all until I tried kind of, this 33mm lens. I don't know what it is about this lens and camera combination that's caused this. So if anyone's got any ideas, more than happy to hear them. But why it failed on the 33mm, and yet I've not had a problem with the 56mm Viltrox, I don't understand. However, that's where we've got to with the X-T2 focus issue, and we'll see how we go on. Dual recording today to try out a different voice recorder.